opportunity to talk to Ambrose Kenny Smith of the Murlocs and King Gizzard and the Wizard Lizard over Zoom. Kenny Smith is the son of Broderick Smith, who is a very successful singer-songwriter, harmonica player from Melbourne, Australia. So that's how Ambrose got into music. He said he used to go see his dad play all the time. He talked about learning harmonica at a very early age and some of the first bands he was in. He actually formed the Murlocs before King Gizzard, before joining King Gizzard, but they both kind of took off around the same time, with Cook Craig also performing with both Gizzard and the Murlocs. We talked about how hardworking of an artist he is with the amount of records the bands have put out. King Gizzard has put out, 18 studio records? I think they put 3 out over the course of quarantine, and this is his 5th studio record with the Murlocs, and he has a 6th one already complete. He tells us all about this most recent record. It was actually finished, and it was being mixed in March 2020, right before the world shut down. So he spent the course of the quarantine writing basically 3 King Gizzard and the Wizard Lizard records and another record for the Murlocs. He talks about some crazy shows that they've played recently in between lockdowns in Australia, how he's able to come up with set lists or even remember set lists with 18 albums worth of material for King Gizzard, and some shows they have planned for the Murlocs coming up. It'd be amazing if you check out our YouTube channel and Facebook page. We've got a ton, over 700 video interviews up there for you to watch, as well as like us on Facebook, subscribe to our YouTube channel, follow us on Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok at BringingBackPod.
We'd appreciate your support if you follow and subscribe to our podcast, wherever you listen to podcasts.
We're bringing it backwards with the Murlocs. My name's Adam, and this podcast is all about you and your journey in music. And of course, we'll talk about your new record as well with Murlocs.
Yeah, awesome.
Cool.
Sweet.
First off, why don't you tell me, where were you born and raised?
Melbourne, Australia. I was born in Brunswick in Melbourne. I lived in West Preston, a suburb of Melbourne, till I was like 8, and then moved to country Victoria to a town called Castlemaine. I lived there for 18 months or so, and then I moved to the coast, the Victorian coast, and was living. I grew up in Ocean Grove, which is like a small surf town.
Cool.
Yeah, so and then I finished high school down there, and then I moved back to Melbourne, back to the city, and yeah.
Okay.
So moved around a little bit.
Moved around a little bit. Was that for your parents' work or?
Yeah, sort of just parents' preference, really.
Sure.
Like my dad was a musician, is a musician, and his manager at the time was living in the country, and I know he seemed to like the country, so we moved there for a bit, and then my parents split up, and then I moved to the beach, to Ocean Grove, which was nice, which was a good place to grow up down the coast there.
Yeah, that's nice. I'm from Southern California, from San Diego, so I know the coast really well. It's pretty cool to grow up around the water and the beach.
Yeah, for sure. It's a lot colder than California, but yeah, it's still a nice setting. It's good. Everyone's it's a good vibe everyone's got, you know.
Sure. How did you get into music?
My dad, I guess. My dad has played music forever, and yeah, since I was a kid, I wanted to just sort of, like a lot of kids, be like their dad in ways, and I picked up the harmonica because of him. He plays the harmonica and sings. Yeah, so I sort of just did that stuff. I also just genuinely loved the sound of harmonica. I was listening to a lot of blues music and stuff growing up. I used to fall asleep every night listening to like Muddy Waters and Sonny Terry and Little Walter and Howlin' Wolf and all that stuff. So it's sort of ingrained in me. So I find it hard to like get into some genres that are so far from that, because it's quite in my backbone.
Sure. Is your dad did he play professionally?
Mm-hmm.
Oh wow.
Yeah, he played in bands and heaps of stuff, and then was solo for a lot of his career.
That's amazing. Were you able to go see him play live and everything?
Oh yeah, heaps of times. Yeah, most of my life was in pubs and bars and concerts and stuff. So yeah, I grew up a lot around it. So it's sort of a natural setting for me to be in.
Sure, sure. So that's pretty cool to have that. To kind of look towards as far as like a career and everything. I would imagine that helps.
Yeah, it's good. It's a blessing and a curse. Yeah, it's good though. Yeah, I guess you're sort of weary and a bit more switched on maybe at times. Yeah, you kind of a bit cautious and aware of, the good and bad people or whatever.
Sure. Yeah, you can kind of a little bit more about the back end of the industry.
Yeah,
I think.
I think I can sniff them out quicker. I don't know.
When did you start when did you join the first band?
I was playing music from like when I was like 6, 7, or 8, and then I was sort of just messing around with it. I was a kid, so I was just sorry. Okay. And then yeah, it's been unkosher to sneeze at these times, but anyway. Yeah, it was sort of a bit of that, messing around with a few things, not really taking it that seriously. I did like a little funny EP when I was like 8 or something.
Wow.
It was called Boy with the Blues. It was hilarious. And then after that, I was like pretty embarrassed. I really wanted to be a professional skateboarder, so I was like obsessed with skateboarding for a long time. And I continued being obsessed for still am very obsessed. I prefer more the music really. But
interesting.
It just,
well, I've skateboarded my whole life, and that's really how I got into music, was just like skate videos. Like, who is he skating to? Oh, that's the Misfits. And like I'd find bands like that. That was kind of my music education, was through skate videos. That's cool that you're into skateboarding.
Yeah,
I love that.
Yeah, it's exactly the same. Yeah. I don't know. Skateboarding changes. Even the music industry changes a bit too. Everything gets a little bit cheesier or something. But yeah, I know. I got obsessed with skateboarding, and then I had a good friend in high school sort of grounded me back again with music. Oh, actually, we met at the end of primary school. It's like grade 5, the second last year of primary school, when I moved to the coastal town of Ocean Grove. And he started getting me to play harmonica with him and stuff, because he was into like playing blues guitar and whatnot. So we did a bit of that for a while, and then started up a proper sort of band and continued that through our teenage years through high school. And then in my last year of high school, I started the Murlocs, and I joined King Gizzard as well at the same time.
Oh, okay. So you had started the Murlocs, but like around the same time as King Gizzard. Were they already a thing and you joined them, or like how did that?
Gizzard had been a thing for a few months maybe. But I'd already known like most of the guys from previous bands that we were in, like together, like growing up playing at the same pubs or like whatever things there were, festivals and stuff around the coast. So yeah, I already knew Stu, Cook, and Lucas from King Gizzard pretty well. So once I started playing with them, it was just pretty natural, because we'd known each other for so long and how each other played and what each other was capable of.
And Cooks and Murlocs too. So were you guys like kind of a unit before you, like, were you playing together and both decided to join King Gizzard? Like, how did that kind of work?
I already started Murlocs, and we were a band for maybe a couple of years, and then we had a member leave. And at the time, we were like hanging out at Cook's house a lot, and even sometimes rehearsing in his bedroom and stuff. So we were all like really good mates. So it just seemed the obvious choice to ask him to join. And luckily he jumped on board straight away. And it just sort of made everything easier. It made more sense to like have him involved because of the Gizzard connection as well. And just because we're all just best mates. And it was just a perfect fit. So
Sure.
that's that's the connection there.
And what King Gizzard kind of took over a little bit, right? As far as like the record process went. Cause I mean, the fact that you can put out so many records, it blows my mind. I mean, between Murlocs and King Gizzard is like, I don't know how you have time to even sleep, man. It's like you guys pump out so much amazing music, but from, you know, the discography, it looks like you said Murlocs was first, but then King Gizzard put out what, 12 bar brews prior to anything with Murlocs, correct?
Yeah, well, like both sort of bands started in 2010. But like by the time Gizzard was a band, it was already like after however long it was putting out APs and then like records and stuff, you know. So it's been a fast moving train from the start. Okay. Yeah, Murlocs was always a fair few steps behind, but on a like similar sort of wavelengths and path and doing same sort of shows. You know, I remember like sort of selling out a venue in Melbourne with Gizzard, and then like 6 months later doing it with Murlocs, and then like playing the sort of the big festival Meritus with Gizzard. But we had the opening slot with Gizzard, and then like, you know, I think it was the following year, Murlocs played like one of the last slots. So wow. It was all like pretty back and forth. And then once Gizzard like went to America, it just sort of took off. And everyone, just had to, keep up pretty much, you know?
Sure. So when you came to America, that was kind of that's when Gizzard really took off for you, you'd say? Yeah,
that was the breaking point for sure. And we all knew that was going to either break it or, you know, or make it. So we went over the, 2 months or whatever it was. And that first year we toured like 2 month stints, did two of them, one in like the States and Europe. It was sort of States and Europe chopped in between, a bit of both times. But that was it. We kind of things just sort of took off from there, that's for sure. And it's been a struggle ever since to keep Murlocs getting the same sort of treatment, you know, but at the end of the day, I believe so hard in the music and everything that it is that, I keep trying to push it to what it deserves, you know?
Yeah. I mean, both bands obviously are phenomenal, but the fact that you are able to, like I said earlier, crank out the amount of songs and music for King Gizzard. And then also you've put out, you just put out your fifth record, full length record with Gizzard. I mean, with Murlocs too. It's like, so you have had like 18 albums with the King Gizzard, and now you have 5 Murlocs records as well.
To be honest, I haven't like stopped to count recently.
That's crazy. Like, how do you write it? When you write a song, do you know if it's going to be a Gizzard or a Murloc song when it starts? Like
forever, I've sort of, a lot of my songs just go to Murlocs. Because at the end of the day, I don't know, it depends. I'll show stuff to Stu, and then it's sort of like, if he clicks and digs it, he'll run with it and he'll do something with it, you know? Take it to where it needs to be, or turn it into a Gizzard song in any shape or form. But, a lot of the time I know that songs are just kind of, a lot of my songs can just be a bit too straight up and maybe simple or whatever for whatever the vibe is, Sometimes we do albums with polyrhythms and sometimes we do albums with microtones and stuff, So it's always got a pretty tech, aspect to it. So that's why, I love Murlocs and hold it close to my heart, because it is just that sort of simplistic, standard kind of formula that I think is just kind of timeless to me. And it's also just like my favorite kind of music, that sort of blues rock music. So that's why I've always tried and kept it alive, because I really get my fix out of that,
Sure.
And also Stu's just been such a big help to the band, as always, whether it's recording our albums or mixing them for next to nothing. I've still been trying to pay him for engineering Manic Candid episode like a few years ago, and he refuses to invoice me. Yeah, so
That's cool. I didn't realize that. So he helps record those records too.
Yeah, because he does feel guilty that he takes me away, from Murlocs with Gizzard and stuff. So he's always trying to make things work for Murlocs, and he's really helpful.
That's amazing.
But at the same time, he's a workhorse. So
well, both are. I mean, obviously.
Yeah, never stop. Yeah. It's good. It's good. Good energy to be around.
Yeah, I mean, you put out Old Locomotive in 2017, the same year you put out 5 records with King Gizzard. It's like, how do you?
He was
even do that?
It was literally mixing that when we're on like Ryanair flights in Europe. Like I remember like having stopovers in Portugal and having to like quickly listen to like Old Locomotive mixes, and then like I'd look over and he'd be working on a Gizzard song, like while I'm sitting there trying to like figure out the snare sounds right.
That's so crazy. So you guys must just be like, that's all you can do, right? It's just eat, breathe, and write songs.
Yeah,
and tour. That's pretty amazing.
Yeah, it's good. Yeah, he just never stops, and so it makes you never stop because it just wants you just want more and more when you're around that. Yeah, like I don't know. Yeah, it just literally never stops. Like he's had a kid, and it's just keeps going and going. And it just gives me a drive to like keep Murlocs, continuously punching stuff out as well. And, being as good as we can be.
And how did this whole pandemic kind of affect, obviously, the formula really for Murlocs and King Gizzard? Because it's like you guys are either touring or writing and recording records. Like, so tell me about how this whole thing, where you guys were at when, like March 2020, where were you and what was going on?
In March 2020, I was mixing Bittersweet Demons.
Oh, really?
Via like internet correspondence for those first couple weeks. Yeah, I had like session times booked in at like a studio because we're going to do it to like this analog setup and everything with this dude John Lee in Melbourne. And he's such a gun that he used this thing called Digital Pigeon, which I'd never heard of before. And it was just like this link, and he sends it to me, and it's just like a live stream to what he's listening to. So he'd call me up and be like, hey, have you got the stream going? I'll play back where I'm at with the track. And then he would like play it back and I can hear what he's doing. And then we'd finish it and I'd be like, oh yeah, maybe turn the percussion down a little bit or this and that. And then he would play it again. And, then would sign off on the track and he would call me back in a few hours when he had the next one, So that was me just sitting at home for the first few weeks doing that wireless. And then, in the other time I was just working on like King Gizzard's, KG and LW records around that period. So yeah, I was just at home and we all just kept working. We kept just busy. Gizzard, we managed to finish 3 records throughout proper lockdown situations of like sending stuff back and forth, which was pretty strange. But now it's like we're pretty used to it. Like some of the guys just sort of keep preferring to stay home, or like, Kaz in Gizzard will prefer to stay home, record his drums and whatever. Or it depends, We've been trying to get more around each other now that we can, but everyone sort of just got comfortable with their own setups and what they're doing. So the same with Murlocs, but Murlocs was harder because we've always been a band that's just naturally rather prefer to just get in a room together and, sort of how everyone just kind of can only get stuff done is when we're all together figuring things out as a team, as a group.
So you'd say it's more of you guys work better as like everyone together in one room and kind of bouncing ideas off each other versus the writing process for King Gizzard?
Yeah, for sure. Usually with Gizzard, it's like such a strong force from Stu or whoever, is leading the song that it's kind of just all there, it's sort of, there's like, I don't know, it depends on what it is, but a lot of the time it's sort of pretty allocated of like how the bass line should be and like how like, certain voicing should be done on keys and guitar or whatever, or like, yeah, it's kind of pretty set out. But with Murlocs, we kind of just sort of keep an open book. Even if there is even if it is pretty set out, whatever, no one really is showing or telling anyone what to do as such. They kind of just like let everyone kind of just make it their own and do whatever, which is nice. But yeah, it works in a different way. Like it depends with Gizzard because there's so much going on, so many songs that some songs are just sort of like pretty focused and pretty figured out down to a point, and then some songs are just loose and jammy and it's free for all, you know. But I think with Murlocs, it's kind of just pretty just sort of we prefer to just kind of get together in a room. But in saying that, we did manage to finish off a record in lockdown, so we've got another one under the belt.
For Murlocs.
Yeah, we've got another one.
Oh my gosh.
But yeah, it's hard for like I had to wait. So that was done in Bittersweet Demons was done in Bittersweet March. 2020. I keep saying bittersweet so much in these interviews. We finished that and then we're just like twiddling our thumbs and and I was doing all these albums with Gizzard by just, you know, everyone doing stuff at home that I just sort of, me and Cook kind of just thankfully convinced the others to try and see if we could make a record that way. And I really wanted to make a heavy record and I was, you know, busy doing the Gizzard stuff. So Callum Shottle and Murlocs went ahead and made a banging record, mostly himself, and then just sort of sent the ideas to us and we played over the top of it. Yeah. So it's a weird way.
Less democratic as it was more like he kind of helped, you know, have the structure for most of the record of this new one.
Yeah. It was all kind of there, and then the drum parts, like everything was pretty much there except for vocals and stuff. Because I always kind of just get left to write my own words and melodies and stuff a bit. But yeah, it's all his music pretty much more or less, and then the rest of us kind of just put our bits and pieces, cherries on top. Mm-hmm. But yeah, it's gonna be funny. It's gonna be funny when like bands, like big rock bands or whatever, or whoever starts putting out these records, that sound just literally so isolated.
I know.
I love the record and we put so much work and time into it. But I still listen back to it and I'm just like, oh, wow, this is the most isolated drum sound I've ever heard for us, which is kind of refreshing maybe for a band like us. I don't know. I don't know if it's a good or a bad thing, but I like it. It is just what it is, you know. It's what we did with the time we had, and it's going to be the case for a lot of people. So I'm interested to see what people come up with and what music starts to come out. And I hope people don't keep waiting much longer.
Yeah, was it hard to wait?
We're only getting older.
Yeah, was it hard to wait on this on Bittersweet Demons to put it out? I mean, you said it was done in March, and like you just put it out a couple weeks ago.
Well, yeah, I was wanting to push it for as long as we kind of possibly could, because I don't know, but like any longer than this just would have been actual torture, and there probably would have been a lot more reluctance against the songs to play them. I don't know. It just, this is probably as long as we could have waited. And I'm glad it's out because, it needed to be done. But, like I said, just, you know, it is just the fact of the matter is that we, still can't properly play it live and bring the, you know, receive the fruits of it all, you know. So hopefully that, you know, it'll come some point next year. But I think by the time we'll be touring overseas, we'll probably just have this other one out. Because, you know, that's the scary part of it. Putting something out, you put so much time and love into it, and then it's just like a click of social media and it's out there, you know.
Right. Yeah, because you're not going to really give it the attention and support you would any other record, right?
It's a different feeling of like putting it out and just knowing that you don't really have all this stuff to follow it up with to take it to that next level. I guess that's always been a thing for Murlocs anyway, because we've never had a huge amount of time to tour it because of Gizzard. But like this time, it's a strange feeling because it's sort of just completely out of anyone's control, you know?
Mm-hmm. How is it in Australia? Is it still pretty locked down?
Yeah, we're pretty super behind with vaccines and stuff. Like the government is pretty all over the shop. They're dropping the ball real hard in that department. So like, yeah, I know like one person that's vaccinated, like fully vaccinated or something.
Oh, wow. So there's not a whole lot of, because I know early on, or like Perth, because it's so far down, they were still doing shows and everything, right? Earlier, I mean, months ago. And then now, but it's nothing up in Melbourne.
Yeah, Melbourne copped it the hardest. Yeah, Melbourne definitely got hit pretty bad. But yeah, it's weird now because it's going like for the first time in New South Wales, it's the cases per day are worse than it's ever been since the start of the pandemic, like now.
Oh my gosh, really?
Yeah, which is so bizarre because it's always been us and the rest of the country doesn't really understand on like how to deal with it seriously. So like recently we had like a 2-week lockdown and then straight away people were just like mask and distancing and just, you know, it's like this impulse now in Victorians that like everyone kind of just knows how to just deal with it and play by the rules and get it done quicker, you know. But you look at like Sydney and other states and there's people just all out and about kind of, you know, not with their masks on and kind of just a bit more carefree and then they're wondering why the cases are continuously going up and sort of staying stagnant or whatever. But yeah, I don't know. It's like everyone has their own point of view, but that's pretty much the black and white version. Sure. And the rest of the country is like, yeah, like Queensland and other states are getting hit up as well. But it's just funny because not Murlocs, Victoria, but like us here, Murlocs have been having this weird luck recently with it all. I've got nothing around me to touch wood, which is bad, but we played in Sydney a few weeks ago and it was crazy. Like I couldn't believe it. We finished a 2-week lockdown in Victoria, in Melbourne. Then on the Friday, the day after the lockdown finished, we got all good to like fly to Sydney and play this show. And what we read on the news and spoke to everyone in health departments and stuff was that we had to quarantine when we're not working. So we had to quarantine at the hotel, when we're not working. So we all like sound check, straight back to the hotel, just chilled in the hotel all day, got Uber Eats and stuff. Went back to the venue at like 9-10 o'clock to play at 11 or whatever it was. And everyone was like, oh, didn't you see, like they changed the laws, like, you know, today you didn't have to like stay inside all day. I'm like
thanks.
Oh yeah, cheers, thanks. Like you could have texted me or something. Like
sure.
No one told us, but it didn't really matter anyway. We were kind of happy, just chilling. Right. But then we played this show and it was bonkers. It was just like first song, Francesca, we opened with, first note, all the fallbacks on stage, all the monitors just got flipped over, all my pedals got ripped out, my mic fell over, and people were just moshing and like crowd surfing and like chanting and stuff, our name and shit. And I was just like, never felt so alive.
Wow.
So
yeah. That was probably, but that was probably somebody's first show.
Shit,
I was like, I was going to say, that was probably somebody, a lot of these people have been like sitting in with all this like pent up, like they're ready to go. You know what I mean? And like, they're about to blow their gasket and it's like the first show they get to see in a year and a half. And
proper. And then like the irony is we played it. I was literally just had my mouth was to the floor. I couldn't believe it. And then we like bailed back to the hotel, flew home. A few days later, bang, there's like a massive cluster in Sydney. and now they're all in lockdown.
Oh my! So you got to escape for like a day, like a night to go like
Yeah, it was
play
cool, just
and
Mission Impossible, like it was crazy.
oh,
Yeah, I couldn't
man.
believe it. We
How-
got in and out of there, got to play that, and recently with Gizzard, I was like in Perth, and it was like 1,800 people or something in this outdoor venue. Again, like second song, this guy pushes past me and boosts off the fallback and crowd surfs, and they were like mosh pitting and going ballistic. And all my Perth friends are like, we had like one day of masks here. Like, look at my tan. Like, I have no idea what happened. And we're all just couldn't believe it. And then while we were in Perth, there was a lockdown happening in Brisbane.
Mhm.
And then we had the Brisbane show 2 weeks later. So we get to Brisbane 2 weeks later, lockdown's all over. We can play the show. It's all good. And I'm on stage in Brisbane, and my girlfriend calls me, who's just got to Perth, and there's a lockdown in Perth. So we're
Wow.
literally like,
You just missed it again.
I don't know. Yeah, I'm just like playing games now with this COVID monster. I'm just like,
It's weaving
seeing
and
what-
bobbing, right?
yeah, totally. Bobbing and weaving all over the joint. Yeah.
Oh my gosh! What about leaving Australia? Are they allowing that at all? Like, because here in the States, we're kind of shows are being booked, even like festivals are being booked. Are you allowed to leave and play here, or is it like a big nightmare to come back?
I really don't know. It's quite complex. Like, I see like Tame and stuff is going soon, and a few other people. I don't really know many other bands, like any smaller bands, because obviously they're just massive and
Oh yeah,
can take the risk of like losing a lot of money, if things go south. But yeah, I don't know. It's still just so dicey to think about, I think, at the moment.
Mhm.
We're just still kind of just putting our eggs in one basket for next year, more or less, because it's just too hardcore, I think. We're just so far behind the vaccines over here that like none of us have been able to get like the jab yet. So hopefully those things will change, though. I don't know. The news keeps saying things will get more lenient in that department, so hopefully things will get better.
Sure hope
And,
so.
but
I know a lot
yeah,
of bands have been itching to get out there to play for you guys too. A lot of shows.
Oh yeah, for sure, totally. Yeah, but I don't know. I think it's just that whole hotel quarantine thing's really scary too. Like putting crew members or band members or whoever wants to come home, obviously after a tour or whatever. I've got to like, 2-week quarantine in a hotel technically. But
Mhm.
there was something the other day saying that those rules could change to 1 week. So we're just sort of, yeah, we're on top of that, but it's kind of just too hardcore to just be like, all right, let's just like book a tour in a couple months and we'll just wing it and things will work out.
Right.
We'll put holds on all these big venues and just get buses and all this stuff. And, if it doesn't happen, oh well, like, we'll just go broke. That's cool.
Right.
It's kind of just like pretty nuts.
Oh man, I know. By the time you guys work so quickly, you'll have like another 3 records done by then.
Yeah, I think so.
Especially with Gizzard, it's like by the time you guys can really play, you put out you already put out 3 records over the course of the quarantine. Like, how do you?
Yeah,
it's difficult to come up with like
since we've been able to come overseas.
Yeah, is it like how do you guys even? Is a set list kind of an problematic?
Don't even
thing?
talk about the set list. Yeah. We're about to play in Sydney in August, and we have to play. We're doing genre night, like every night's different songs.
And
all the guys are like bringing their girlfriends and stuff, and I'm just quietly kind of happy that I don't think my girlfriend can come because I'm just gonna have to be in the hotel every day like a mad scientist trying to like get over prepared for these shows every night.
Oh my gosh.
It'll be fine. A lot of them are like pretty chill. I keep just trying to tell myself that, but like in 2019 when we toured, we were playing 80. We had a mixed bag of 80 songs or something, so we're like just swapping them around every night. Yeah, it's fun. Like, it's good. I love the challenge. But sometimes it's just like, oh, it's just, you know, I do also just like love touring with the Murlocs and playing the same set.
I was gonna say Murlocs are probably a little bit more laid back, I would imagine, with the amount of songs.
Yeah, and we sort of know what songs are the best and work live the best, you know, like there's definitely a bunch of Gizzard songs that are just not very good live, but we still just give it a go, and take us a few goes to sort of decide that it's not good. But with Murlocs, we're pretty much just like do one rehearsal of a song and it's just like, nah, this sucks. We know our limits in the Murlocs, that's for sure.
Sure. Well, man, thank you so much, Ambrose, for talking with me today, dude. I appreciate it.
Yes, it's been good chatting to you too, man.
And I hope soon enough, like this all kind of opens up. I mean, like I said, I haven't even seen a show personally in a year and a half. So, and we're starting to a little bit open up here in the States, but I know it's kind of touch and go for a bit in Australia. Like you said, you were able to play some shows, but it's been kind of like one of those things where it's open and then it's closed. It sounds like that's kind of still the case over there.
Yeah, it's a bit off and on, but yeah, we're hoping to do this Murlocs Aussie tour for the album starting September. So, you know, things keep getting pushed back, but it's looking more hopeful by that point.
That's awesome. Well, I love the new record, and obviously everything you guys have been doing is incredible, and just the amount of music you put out just blows my mind. And
cheers.
And I appreciate you. One more question before I let you go. I want to know if you have any advice for aspiring artists.
Well, these days I feel like you can do most things yourself. We kind of did everything a lot ourselves and still do. I don't know. I think it'd just be wary of like contracts. You don't know what they look like, or, you know, if anyone approaches you that seems random or uncomfortable, I'd question things, you know, and just, try and do most things yourself as much as possible, and just keep putting out music. I think a lot of people get scared about putting out that first album, which I reckon is just silly. So, you know, just keep punching and keep grinding.